What's up, everyone? This is Tatum. I'm back with another episode of Flowers. This is my segment where I give some of my favorite albums and some classic albums that I think deserves appreciation. Their flowers. So today I'm going to be discussing Frank Ocean's Channel Orange.
Taxi driver, be my shrink for that.
Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Help me get my subscribers that we're almost to 400. So I can do my YG dance. Channel Orange to me is still the best album I heard in the past 10 years. I don't think I've heard an album in any genre better than this album. Even, I it's always like when I listen to Blonde, I always like, is this album better? Then I listen to Channel Orange again, I'll be like, no, this album's not better than Channel Orange. But the range of sound and genres that he touches on in this album, from song structure to song topics, this album is just amazing all around. One of the best things I love about this album is just the songwriting in general. Like, the hooks are great, all the songs tell a story, and it's no low moment on this whole album to me. I think it's just a perfect record. And Frank Ocean is like a unicorn, bro. He's one of those like artists, and he became that artist in such a small amount of time, but from Nostalgia Ultra into Channel Orange. But you just don't know what you might get from him. Like, Blonde is totally different from Channel Orange. Channel Orange is totally different from Endless, and so on. But that's one thing that I love about artists like that. Like, the unpredictability of the artist is something that's always stood out to me. In this album just alone, he can go from subjects as love, he can go to classism, to drugs, and that all could be in the same song. like all that could just be one record, and it's just like crack rock. That's kind of like that. He touches on so many subjects in that it's just amazing to me that someone in this era can actually, it's still artists like that. That's great, and he's written for other people in that nature. So like he just has an unbelievable pen. And the funny part is, I heard that this album was written in a couple of weeks. Like, it didn't even take that long to write, which is, it always blows my mind when like the classic albums only took a week or two to make, and you're like, God damn it only took you a week to make this, but it's just so great. You would think you spent your whole lifetime on it, and that's just unbelievable. But let's just get into it. The title comes from Frank Ocean's experience dealing with synesthesia. That's why his name Channel Orange. He was like, that was what he was dealing with at the time. And he's such an artist that he didn't even want his name highlighted on the cover. He just wanted to say Channel Orange and things of that nature. And it kind of reminds me, it has like the cutting on TV thing and game cutting on the game. You can hear the game cutting on in the intro. And it kind of reminds me of certain like skits and interludes on Nostalgia Ultra when I first heard it. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, one of the major things on the album is Unrequited Love. It's sprinkled throughout the whole album, from Thinking About You to Bad Religion, Forrest Gump, to even Pink Matter. Like, it's sprinkled throughout the whole album. So I just wanted to touch on, some of the highlights. I didn't want to be too long. I just want to touch on some of the highlights, go through a couple of tracks on the album, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So the album first song starts with, after the start skit, it starts with Thinking About You, and that song was written for Bridget Kelly. Like, he gave her, that was her song, and then he released his version on his Tumblr. Artist is just so artist. Like, I know I wrote this song for you, but I'm gonna release my version before you release your version, and then it's just gonna be my song. Like, she released it as well. I think it's called like, I forgot what it's called. It's kind of, the title's kind of like Thinking About You as well. But that song, it's just so dope. When I listen to that song, it kind of reminds me, and I was reading up a little bit behind the album and things went into it, but it kind of reminds me of like that teenage love thing. And it also, like, he was able to, like, he does it a lot on Blonde, but he pulls a lot from his life in the moment and past, and just create things of that nature. Like, just to open a track, A Tornado Flew Around My Room Before You Came, excuse the mess it made, it usually doesn't, like, that flow and poetry that he's saying, and just the opening. And that could be, besides Pyramids, that could be like, well, it was the first single, but the most commercial song on the album. It's platinum at this point, but, and then he goes into a falsetto. Like, that's another thing with Frank Ocean. Like, he's able to bend. I had a person tell me that Frank Ocean couldn't sing before, and it fucking blew my mind. Like, are you serious? Like, he can go from a falsetto to a baritone to a tenor to like, he can literally go across every landscape of vocal on a record, and that falsetto that he does on Thinking About You is just ridiculous. And he also always thought about this, listening to this album, that what do you call it, pronouns. He always uses like a he or she in like a way that did he say what I think he said? Like, did he wait? Did maybe he said like like what's the line on like he discusses like you could take him saying like what's the line on thinking about you when he was like a new feel. How could I forget how you feel? You were my first time, a new feel. Like you could take that as a teenager or just someone younger, like experiencing their first time of making love, or you could take it as him his first time with a man. Like you could take it, all those things can be accumulated in that. I remember I was reading in like the producer, he was saying like when he was in the studio, Frank Ocean would say these type of things. He just before he came out as bisexual, he just took it as like his artistic ways. Like you just don't know what he just being artistic. Like he didn't before he came out. So I just thought that was I thought thinking about you is one of those. Sierra Leone. Oh, sorry. Before Sierra Leone, Fertilizer. Even though it's a short skit, that song reminds me of some Stevie Wonder stuff. Like that particular song in itself, like the vocal effect he put on his voice and just saying like fertilizer, I take your shit if that's all you got. Like just that metaphor in itself is just dope. But going to Sierra Leone is one of my favorite songs on the album. And just the lines like I love the way that he goes back and forth in the first verse of like talking and then singing. Like we're spending too much time alone. We're spending too much time alone. And I just ran out of Trojan. Horses gallop to your throne. Like it's just like like that song can also be a continuation to Think About You and just like a teenage kind of love story in a way, because he talks about like this and that. Like on Thinking About You, he says, or do you not think so far ahead? Because I've been thinking about forever. And then further, and then on Sierra Leone, he's talking to the girl or guy about this imaginary life they're starting with each other. A daughter's reaching for your nipple because it's time for her to eat. And then he says the line like, I'll sing a Lennon lullaby, like John Lennon lullaby. I just thought like just the creative thing that he was going into with just that song, and it's not even like a major record, but I love Sierra Leone from the beat to just the subject matter to just the story that he brings you in. And to go into like Sweet Life is, he starts the song with the best song wasn't a single, but you wasn't either. Like I think that's one of the most clever lines that there is, like, and just that whole vibe of that record. Of the song to me is about it's multiple ways I look at the song, right? I look at it like in one way, I look at it, and this is how great songwriting is, right? I look at it one way as an escapism kind of thing. Two, I look at it like a reflection of the wealthy and how they're so warped in their whole world that they don't even realize the shit that's going on in the world. Like you could be so in your bubble that you don't even realize the stuff, and that could be anyone, but wealthy people have that tag a lot of just not being reading the room or being aware of what else is going on outside their world. And sometimes people isolate themselves just so they won't have to see the problems. Like that's why I say and I also like the fourth way I look at it is like living in California, and I read that this is some of his experiences when he first moved to California. Is like a lot of people in California don't leave California because it's kind of, why would I leave? Like, why see the world when I got the beach? Like, I don't need to see it. I live in, like, if you lived here, you would know. But that's four ways that I look at that song. Like, I take that song. Best song on the single. You couldn't turn your radio down. Satellite need a receiver. Can't seem to turn the signal fully. Oh, transmitting the way. Like, that, the way that writing is just, you catching the breeze while you're dead in the grave, but you're keeping it so real. Whatever you like whatever feels good, whatever takes your mountain high. Like it's just so dope, man. And then to go into the following song, Super Rich Kids, is like a great, even though it's a skit between, and it took me a minute to even realize what that skit was saying. Like the mom saying, like, I told you I didn't have no money for this, but you like a kid. I just remember as a kid, like asking my mother for shit that I know she couldn't get at the time, and like putting her in weird situations like that. But I think Super Rich Kids after Sweet Life, just as the two songs are great. Like if Sweet Life was just like the gloss over the kids, he was giving a snapshot. Super Rich Kids went in depth with it. Just the environment that those kids grow up in. Like super rich kids with nothing but fake friends, super rich kids with nothing but loose ends. Start my day up on the roof. It's nothing like this type of view. And the fact that song has a sample, it has the Benny and the Jet sample. Dun, dun, dun 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 dun, and then it also has the Mary J. Blige sample, "Real Love." Is like, man, like that, and Earl Sweatshirt fucking killed it with that verse, like absolutely murdered that fucking song. I think it was like to be what the one of two rap verses on the album. That verse was insane. And then to go into like Pilot Jones, which I think it's that's a fucking like the stories are never ending. Like that's one of the things that I love about this album, that it's just so many, like Pilot Jones, right? You can get, like, he starts it off by saying, like, we once had things in common. The only thing we share is the refrigerator. I'm ice cold, baby. I'm ice cold. And, like, he goes into this falsetto voice, which I think he's speaking from the female point of view, and saying, like, you always smoking in the house. When my mother comes over, you can't get up and get a job because this little hustle getting you by. You're the dealer and the stoner with the sweetest kiss I ever know. Like, and just speaking from, like, the Channel Orange thing, like, you could take it as, obviously, he's talking about a pilot, like Pilot Jones. You took me high, you took me home. But you can also relate it to like the pilot episode, like a pilot, like the beginning of the relationship in a way. So like, I always just grab so many when I'm listening to Frank Ocean, Channel Orange. Even to this day, I grab so many thoughts. And one of my favorite lines is like, trying to keep a grown woman sober. And then he switched characters, right? So like he went from the female's perspective in the first verse, but then he goes to the man perspective in the second verse. Like, tonight you came stumbling across my lawn again. I just don't know why. I try to keep a grown woman sober. And no, I don't want a child, but I ain't been touched in a while by the dealer and the stoner. Like, it's just, man, like he's just creative on a whole other level. That's just, think about the concept, right? So the two songs tied together, Super Rich Kids and Sweet Life, but then he goes into Pilot Jones, and the next song after that is Crack Rock, right? So like, in a sense, like, you know, love can get you high, like, and she took me home, like, just in that bare minimum. And then it goes to Crack Rock, and that's just like a deeper, darker metaphor of like drug use, and he can relate that back at the end of Crack Rock. He could go to he can relate it to Cricket Cops and how they help supply the drugs in the hood that's murdering the black people, but arrest the black people at the same time. I remember playing Crack Rock in the car with my mother, and she was like, "What is this?" like this is a crazy record. Like it's such in depth. What's the line when he said, like, family won't even let you hold the infant. Like, you used to get a little cut from time to time. Like, it's the if you know people who's been, or you dealt with addicts and things of that nature, you understand the story a little bit more. And he said he wrote that song because he used to sit in Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholic Anonymous groups that his grandmother used to hold. So he would hear all these stories from all these addicts, and that's how he like curated. But that was when he was a younger kid, you know what I mean? So like he had all these stories in his mind and made like this. I never heard an addict song told so perfectly. Like, I never in my life. Like, in rap, you get the you know, I knows and Baltimore Love thing, and it's like this kind of heroic way to approach it. But I never heard like somebody can make a movie off Crack Rock, like just off that story alone. And like the last lines when he said, "Cricket cop, dead cop, how much dope can you push to me? Cricket cop, dead cop, no good for community. Fucking pig get shot, 300 men would search for me, but if my brother get popped, don't no one hear the sounds, don't no one hear the rounds, don't no one hear the shouts." Like, bro, like the fact that he bent that story and got to that aspect of it is just top tier, man. You can't even compare it to anything. That's why I said I can't stress that enough. I haven't heard anything better than this album in 10 years. And then the next song be like Pyramids, right? And Pyramids has so many levels and layers to peel back. Like, you could get the first part, he starts off, you know, Black Queen Cleopatra, and it starts off on this pedestal and how much she meant to Africa and how much she just meant to men and just people in general, and how she reigns supreme. And then it kind of trickles down, like, what's good to what's the line? What's a Jew that ain't still precious? Like, he starts for lack of a better word, he starts to chip away at the goddess of the Queen Cleopatra, right? So about it, and it's on this like the most up-tempo Frank Ocean beat I ever heard him on, right? And by the time it gets to the second verse, it's like boom, and then it gets to this like dark, slow, more trap sounding beat, right? And then he switches it and compares Cleopatra to being like becoming a prostitute, like in today's time, and how, to me, like, I could be wrong, but it's like how we diminish as men and just culture the value of black women, right? Like, she started out on this pedestal of queen and reigning supreme, you love your gold casket kind of thing, and then he bends the story to his like a man in love with a prostitute that used to be his girl, and now like her love isn't free no more. Now he got to pay for it, and he's, when she comes home from work, like he puts himself. I'm saying a lot, but he puts himself in the pimp shoes. He puts himself in Cleopatra's shoes, the viewer shoes. He goes into the pimp shoes, motel suite, twisting my cigars, floor model TVs with the VCR, got rubies in my, like he's describing a pimp, and like I read books like Iceberg Slim book, and when I hear that part, it like is visual as me reading that book, right? And how like pretty much abused her, like turning a girl out to be a prostitute and still comparing her to Cleopatra as a black woman. And then like you got the guy who was her man, which, you know, like you come home from work and I'm bathing you in the water, and you know, like having sex with you, but your love ain't free no more. I gotta pay, even as your lover, I have to pay for it now. Like, I just think the story could be so intricate, and you can ask a whole nother person, they'll get a whole nother idea what clear pyramids is. You really can't get any better than that. Like, that song in itself is just layered with so much shit. And then in between we have Lost and White and Monks and all great records, but I'm gonna get to fucking Bad Religion because Bad Religion is, that song is just magical. Like him treating his taxi driver as his therapist, him telling his taxi driver his like his story, and not sins but just his pain of like being in love with someone who can't love you. But it's also like he's telling them about the man that he's been with, right? So he's saying like, I can't tell you the truth about my disguise, I can't trust no one. Like when I hear that, I'm like, oh, he's like, the fact that he had to come out with that statement before the album dropped to say that he was bisexual is kind of crazy, because like if you're smart enough, you get it. Like, and I think, I mean, it's protection, I get it, but you get it. Like, what he said, taxi driver, I swear I got 3 lives balanced on my head like steak knife, cyanide in my styrofoam cup. Like, if you know the backstory, what was the cult? What was the guy who ran the cult and killed all his people with that? I can't think of it right now. Yeah, drunk the Kool-Aid pretty much with that statement. Unrequited love, and you know, maybe the guy that he was with wasn't ready to fully embrace that yet. You know what I mean? So like, and then on the other hand, I still think it's about religion. Like I can still take it at face value and just say like, just his thoughts on religion. If anything brings me to my knees, it's a bad religion. You know what I mean? Like, just as a simple form as that. Like, it's so many fucking dynamics to the song that, man, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of men and women who go through that all day, every day. Cab drivers probably hear all the craziest stories. You know how many therapists, he's just an amazing writer, bro. Like, you know how many cab drivers have been therapists to people? Like, Uber drivers don't even talk to you no more. But the Go in the Pink matter, you know, he wanted both Andre and Big Boy on the record, but Andre was like, he don't want Outkast to reunite on somebody else's song. So, in true artist fashion, I'm gonna take Andre. And Andre, he told Andre to like just tell a story. Like, he didn't tell him which direction to go in. He didn't tell him anything. He just said, just tell a story on the record. And sure enough, it fit perfectly. What's the line he say? Having withdrawals, you was such a habit to call. I ate myself at all. I had to tell myself, nah, she better with some fella with a regular job. No, what's my favorite line? I didn't want to get involved, but then that Mr. Benjamin happened to my car, drove far. And I remember my memories, no shop, butter knife, what a life anyway. Like, the building, all the cops out with him. My Hemingway, she got a kind of body that would probably intimidate any of them that were unsouthern, but not me, cousin. Like, I just think that was just flawless flow. Just the way that Frank Ocean told that story of just, you know, gray matter, or comparing the woman like the pink matter, or what if the aliens are watching live and the stars are just for show from that purple matter, like and then what's the line? Then violet, then we spot until we both grew tired. Nothing matter. Like sensei. But pink matter is just it's again it's just disgusting songwriting. You can get so many layers from that. And to go into Forrest Gump, I think that's like a perfect R&B record. Like the metaphor of Forrest Gump. I always thought the metaphor of just using Forrest Gump is just like nobody's ever did this before, and it was right there in our faces. Like we could have, like it sounds like a. I can see Mary J. Blige singing that song. I can see a Jasmine Sullivan singing that song. Like it's just and the fact that he sung the song and saved it for the last record is like if you weren't getting the hints where I was changing he and she and all this pronoun shit throughout the whole album, let me put it right in your face. Forrest Gump. What's this? You're so buff, you're so strong. I'm nervous for it. Forrest Gump. Like you run my mind, boy. Running all the time, boy. Like that metaphor is just dope. Like I just love that song, and a lot of people will probably like skip past Forrest Gump, but I love fucking Forrest Gump. All right, let's get into best songs. I'm gonna go with Sierra Leone, Pyramids, and Bad Religion, and I was mad I had to narrow it down to 3. Worst song, I'm gonna go with Monks, and it's no bad song in this album. Like I love Monks, but I just had to pick one. Like I love the part on Monks where he says, we made it safely. Even with your father's army trailing us, we escape him. Even with his archers, bows at our backs. Man, that's a story in itself. Like you could paint the whole love story with that, and that's like even coming off Lost and going into Monks is like a story in itself. Like, girl, you lost. You with this guy. You lost yourself and blah, blah, blah. You don't even know who you are no more. This guy got you selling drugs, carrying drugs across state lines, all this shit. And then going to Monks and he goes, the last part is like, with your father's army trailing us, we escape him. Like, it's the love story. The love stories is just ridiculous, man. Best line, I'm going to say, what do you think my brain is made for? Is it just a container for the mind? This great, great matter. Sensei replied, what is your woman? And she just a container for the child, that soft pink matter. I think those bars are just ridiculous. I think those bars are just fucking nuts. To wrap this up though, like I said, and I'll keep reiterating, there's been no album better than this in the past 10 years. I think it could go up against anything in history of music. Like I think the stuff that he put into this album is just amazing, bro. Like no real samples, like straight music, like the storytelling, the wordplay, the singing, the levels of singing, the hooks, the beats. You know, I talk to people, I got friends that say they don't understand Frank Ocean's music. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's like, I don't know, like, I don't understand why the sky's blue. What do you mean? It's blue. Like, I don't, like, for me, it's just like, if you just listen, like, you'll get it. I think if it ain't smacking your face R&B, like We Fucking Tonight, or You Broke My Heart, and Whoop-de-doo scoop, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, but if you listen to that shit, like, just listen to what he's saying. Like, you can't tell me Pink Matter is not one of the greatest songs you ever heard. Bad Religion, Crack Rock, Think About You, like Pyramids. Like, you can't tell me these records are not some of the greatest writing you've ever heard. Like, each song, I wish like Def Jam gave him a budget. He could have made a movie around this whole thing. Like, each song could have been like on some Lemonade type shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing that compared to this. Like, nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. And I'm glad he didn't do the Lauryn Hill thing. Like, made the one great album and disappeared. Like, he came back with Blonde. And when I do my Blonde Flowers review, I'm going to say all the same shit again. And you'll be like, but didn't you just say that there's nothing? No, I know what I said. But there's nothing better than Blonde. But, yeah, I just wanted to give flowers to Frank Ocean, Channel Orange. It deserves it in every aspect of deservance. So, here it is. Flowers for Channel Orange. I'm Tatum.